The Imperium of man stretches across 1,000,000 worlds, yet its veins are black. Beneath the holy light of the Emperor's order runs an invisible network. Arteries of deceit, corruption, and forbidden exchange. It pulses with the lifeblood of the damned. Smugglers, thieves, void pirates, and traitors whose names are never recorded in the Administratum's endless data slates. Every shipment of relics that vanishes, every tithe convoy that arrives mysteriously lighter, every vox signal that flickers before a ship disappears into the warp. These are the beats of that dark heart. To the average Imperial citizen, such things do not exist. To even speak of them is heresy. The Imperium teaches that every grain of sand belongs to the Emperor, every breath owed to his will. But the Imperium is too vast to police, too old to cleanse, and for every decree handed down by the High Lords of Terra, there are 10,000 worlds where the parchment burns before it reaches the ground. There, the smugglers thrive. They call themselves void runners, ghost ships, shadow haulers. The names change from sector to sector, but the life is the same. They live on the edges of sanctioned space, their vessels patched together from centuries of forgotten technology. Their hulls bear the markings of a dozen false identities, their crew oaths rewritten after every jump. The Imperium calls them sinners. They call themselves survivors. Smuggling in the 41st millennium is not simply the act of moving goods. It is defying the machine of control itself. The Administratum monitors every tithe, every shipment, every crate of grain or lasgun part that crosses a port. The Inquisition hunts even the rumor of unlicensed trade. Yet the Imperium's hunger is endless. Its bureaucracy moves slower than death itself. Entire worlds wait decades for food shipments, weapons, or medica supplies, while smugglers deliver them in secret, at a price, and the price is always blood. In the void between stars, black markets thrive on desperation. A starving agri-world will pay anything for a shipment of corpse starch. A dying hive will trade thousands of lives for a few tanks of oxygen. Even Imperial officers buy from the shadows. Vox casters, forbidden amasec, Xenos relics they pretend not to understand. The smugglers never ask questions. They don't need to. The Imperium's greed keeps them alive. There are worlds where this trade is as old as the Imperium itself. Scintilla, Necromunda, Gunmetal City. The hive worlds that supply the Emperor's armies are built on theft. Tithes are skimmed, shipments altered, manifests forged. Cargo meant for the front lines vanishes into the underhive, traded for thrones and favors. On these worlds, the smugglers aren't outlaws. They are kings. A typical smuggling run begins in silence. A ship, old, scarred, unregistered, drifts beyond the Auspec's range of patrols. Its crew murmurs in the dark, their faces lit by the dim red of cogitator screens. The void is quiet, except for the soft hum of the warp engines. Somewhere in the distance, the Imperial Navy prowls, their sensor arrays sweeping like cold suns across the black. The smuggler's captain, a man who's forgotten his birth name, waits for the moment when the machine spirits of the Navy ships look away. Then the ship dives, not into the warp, but into its shadow. There are routes between routes, paths through the immaterium so thin and unstable that no navigator of the Navis Nobilitae will chart them. The smugglers call them the Black Veins. They are invisible rivers of warped space, pulsing with psychic currents and the echoes of lost ships. Only madmen and ghosts travel them. But those who survive emerge light years away, beyond Imperial control. No one knows who discovered the Black Veins first. Some say they were mapped by ancient rogue traders during the Great Crusade, when the Imperium was still young and hungry. Others whisper they were carved by the warp itself, wounds left behind by dying gods. The truth doesn't matter. What matters is that they work. A smuggler who knows the Black Veins can move anything. Archaeotech from the dead vaults of Mars, relics stolen from ecclesiarchal cathedrals, Xenos artifacts that glow like dying suns. But the price of passage is always risk. The Black Veins are alive. They whisper. They remember. Ships that stray too far from the current vanish, swallowed by the void, their crews screaming prayers that will never reach the Emperor. Those who survive never speak of what they saw. They emerge changed, their eyes hollow, their minds frayed by the echo of something vast, watching them from within the warp. They dock at forgotten stations, trade their cursed cargo, and disappear again. The Imperium's ports pretend not to see. The dockmasters know better than to ask where the goods came from. On the hive world of Decilium, they say a smuggler once brought in a single crate of alien metal that could not rust, melt, or shatter. The Mechanicus bought it within minutes, sealed it in prayer locks, and erased every record of the transaction. The smuggler was executed by morning, not for the crime, but to ensure silence. The Mechanicus called it preservation of purity. The smugglers called it business. The truth is, the Imperium needs its outlaws. Without them, its arteries would clot and die. The tithes never meet demand. The administratum's bureaucracy moves slower than decay. If smugglers did not fill the void between orders, half the Imperium would starve before the ink on the paperwork dried. The High Lords will never admit it, but even they rely on shadow roots. In the deep void above Cadia's ruins, there once existed a fleet known as the Thieves of the Veil. Their ships were painted in black livery, their heraldry erased, their captains ghosts. They were not pirates, but servants of the Inquisition, moving artifacts and assassins through routes that did not exist. When Cadia fell, the Thieves of the Veil were abandoned. They turned to smuggling. Now their black ships are spoken of as myth. Vessels that appear out of nowhere, trade forbidden cargo, and vanish into the storm. Every smuggler dreams of such freedom. Every smuggler dies before reaching it. The Inquisition's eyes are everywhere. Or at least, that is what the Imperium believes. In truth, even the Inquisition cannot see everything. The galaxy is too vast, too broken. For every heretic burned, 10 more rise from the ashes. For every ship seized, 100 more slip through the cracks. The Imperium's control is not absolute. It is illusion. And it is in the spaces between that illusion that the smugglers live. They gather in orbital stations lit by the glow of dying suns. Their bars smell of oil and incense, their tables covered in weapons older than the Imperium itself. They trade in more than goods. They trade in silence, information, access. They buy and sell things the Imperium does not believe exist. The laughter of a demon, a bottle of air from old Earth, the coordinates of a world the Emperor once walked upon. To outsiders, these men and women are heretics, but to the Imperium, they are necessary evil. Some say that even rogue traders, those golden-sanctioned pirates, secretly rely on them. When their warrants run thin, when the ecclesiarchy grows suspicious, it is the smugglers who carry their goods through the dark. They are the invisible arteries of power, flowing beneath the throne of humanity's God. And though the Imperium calls them traitors, it cannot kill them, because in truth, they are what keeps it alive. For in a galaxy ruled by fear, faith, and tyranny, there is one truth the smugglers have always understood. The only law that endures in the darkness is trade. And trade, no matter how black its vein, never truly dies. Not every shipment that crosses the void carries weapons or grain. Some cargo cannot be listed, named, or even acknowledged without invoking the death penalty. These are the unseen trades, the black cargoes that keep the galaxy turning while damning everyone who touches them. In the grim expanse of the Imperium, there is no shortage of forbidden goods. The smugglers' holds are lined with them, each crate a secret, each container a prayer whispered in fear. To most, the word contraband means narcotics, or unlicensed technology. But in truth, the list of forbidden things stretches longer than the stars. Anything not sanctioned by the Adeptus Mechanicus, anything unblessed by the ecclesiarchy, anything the Inquisition deems impure, all of it is illegal, which is to say, nearly everything worth owning. Some ships deal in Xenos relics, alien artifacts that pulse faintly with power no human mind can comprehend, blades that hum with a life of their own, orbs that whisper in dead languages when held too long. These items are not smuggled for their value alone. They are coveted because they break the Emperor's silence. They promise understanding, control, knowledge without devotion. And in a galaxy suffocated by faith, knowledge is the purest heresy. Others traffic in human lives. On the hive worlds, slaves are tithed and traded by the millions under sanctioned decree. Yet off-record, the smugglers move what the Adeptus Arbites never see. Children stolen from orphan habs, psychers unregistered by the black ships, convicts condemned but never delivered. They vanish into the holds of freighters, bound for unknown worlds where flesh and fear are currency. Some are sold to rogue planetary governors who need labor their tithes cannot supply. Others disappear into Mechanicus forges, their humanity stripped and reshaped into servitors. A smaller, darker trade thrives in the underbelly of void ports, the exchange of souls themselves. There are rumors, whispered even among inquisitors, of smugglers who carry captured essence, sealed in crystalline containers that glow with psychic residue. They are used in rituals, in experiments, in the creation of new weapons. The ecclesiarchy calls them blasphemies. The smugglers call them product. On the world of Carthos 9, a story circulates of a single container smuggled through the warp, carried aboard the freighter Mercy's Price. It was said to hold an artifact, small, unassuming, wrapped in cloth woven from human hair. The ship's crew swore they could hear it breathing. When the vessel arrived at its destination, there was no crew left. Only the artifact remained, and the cargo manifest read one word where the captain's name should have been: paid. That is the nature of the unseen cargo. Payment and price are the same. Even sanctioned agents, like rogue traders, flirt with this darkness. Their ancient warrants grant them rights few dare question. But those rights have limits, and beyond those limits lies the trade that truly sustains them. They move weapons to worlds forbidden by the Munitorum. They sell archaeotech recovered from the fringes of the Halo stars. They traffic with Xenos races the Imperium denies even exist. One rogue trader, Captain Alaric Voss, was said to have built his fortune smuggling alien gene seeds across Imperial borders. His ships flew under the banners of purity, his holds filled with Imperial grain, but hidden beneath, preserved in cryovaults, were the embryos of an extinct species. The Inquisition eventually found him. They burned his fleet, purged his crew, and sanctified the ashes. Yet the legend persists that one of his ships escaped into the void, still carrying its cargo. Some claim that its passengers, those unborn alien heirs, now walk among mankind, wearing borrowed faces. The smugglers don't tell such stories to frighten each other. They tell them as warnings of the line between wealth and annihilation. For in the Imperium, every fortune comes with a grave. Even the smallest black market exchange carries the risk of damnation. A merchant in the Underhive sells an unregistered data slate containing pre-Imperial records, a simple text about human history before the Emperor's rise. For that, he is reported, tried, and burned within hours. His ashes sold to the ecclesiarchy as incense. The man who turned him in receives a reward large enough to feed his family for a year. The Imperium calls this justice. The smugglers call it irony. In their secret holds, they trade not only in goods, but in truth. Fragments of songs from old Earth, fractured schematics of ancient machines, symbols scraped from lost tombs. Things that prove humanity once knew more than it does now. To the priests of Mars, such items are corruption. To the smugglers, they are treasure. They believe knowledge, not purity, will outlast the Emperor. But there are things even the smugglers fear to move. Chaos taints the black markets like rot beneath skin. Sometimes, a crate marked as food or medical supplies contains something far worse. A relic that bleeds when touched, a mask that whispers promises in the voice of its wearer. These items spread corruption faster than plague. Smugglers who carry them either die or vanish, consumed by their cargo before the Inquisition ever finds them. The most feared of all are the warp haulers, vessels whose captains have learned to contain demonic essence itself. They seal it in relics, idols, even human vessels, and sell it to cults hidden across the Imperium. Some do it for profit, others for devotion. Most never live long enough to regret it. When a warp hauler is found, it is not captured. It is erased. The Navy turns its guns upon it and purges it from existence. For no one who traffics in the essence of chaos deserves the Emperor's mercy. And yet, the trade continues. Because the Imperium, in all its holy fire and endless faith, still needs what it forbids. A forge world short on resources turns a blind eye to smugglers delivering stolen promethium. A planetary governor desperate for weapons allows unmarked freighters to land. Even the Inquisition purchases information obtained through unlawful means, though they execute the messengers immediately after. Hypocrisy is not a flaw in the Imperium. It is its foundation. The smugglers understand this better than anyone. They are the shadow hand beneath the golden throne. Unseen, unthanked, but vital. Their ships vanish into the black between systems, leaving only whispers behind. Their cargo manifests read like confessions. Their profits buy silence, and their silence buys survival. Some die in the warp, their names lost forever. Others retire rich and faceless, their wealth laundered through noble houses who pretend not to know its origin. And then there are those who simply keep running. Because the truth is, the unseen cargo is never just physical. Every smuggler carries it. The guilt, the hunger, the knowledge that the galaxy is too vast for innocence to survive. The unseen cargo is the burden of every soul who has looked upon the Emperor's light and still chosen to walk in shadow. And for them, there is no redemption, only the next job. To the common citizen of the Imperium, the name Rogue Trader carries an aura of impossible glory, a legend whispered between vox channels and shrine walls. They are said to command vast fleets, to walk upon worlds untouched since the Great Crusade, and to speak directly with alien kings. But beneath that glittering image lies something far darker. Rogue traders are not heroes. They are not explorers. They are the Empire's most elegant form of sanctioned sin. A rogue trader's life begins with parchment, Not just any decree, but a document older than empires, signed by the emperor himself in the age before decay. A warrant of trade. It is a relic and a curse in equal measure. It grants its bearer near-divine power, the right to travel beyond imperial borders, to make war or peace with Xenos, to trade in goods forbidden to all others. But it also condemns them to a life spent on the edge of annihilation, forever walking the knife's edge between loyalty and heresy. The Imperium needs them because it cannot control them. Every rogue trader is both an extension and an infection of imperial authority. They act where the administratum cannot, speak where the ecclesiarchy dares not, and kill where the Inquisition cannot be seen. Their fleets are floating empires, each vessel a city of soldiers, merchants, tech adepts, and sinners bound by oaths of gold and terror. Their bridges are lined with statues of saints. Their holds brim with contraband. On the same deck where a choir sings praises to the Emperor, a Xenos prisoner might be dissected for study. Such is the paradox of the warrant. Divine freedom bought at the price of humanity. Captain Seraphine. Devora of the Ecliptic Crown was said to have ruled her dynasty with the calm of a saint and the cruelty of a tyrant. Her ship alone was the size of a hive spire, its halls lined with trophies from 100 alien wars. She traded with Eldar corsairs, feasted with orc warlords, and sold sacred imperial relics to heretics in exchange for navigational secrets. The Inquisition knew. They always know. But they allowed her to continue. Her reports brought them knowledge they could not gain otherwise. Her sins bought the Imperium safety. And when she finally died, her body was sealed in gold, her crimes erased by decree. The Ecliptic Crown still sails, captained now by her clone. Every rogue trader dynasty operates under such contradictions. They are the Imperium's explorers and its smugglers, its ambassadors and its assassins. Their missions are written in fire and blood. Recover lost technology, conquer forgotten worlds, or negotiate with Xenos empires for resources. Most never return. Those who do, return as monsters wearing human skin. Their ships are cathedrals to greed. Corridors smell of incense and ozone. Stained glass windows show the Emperor's face watching every transaction. Below decks, slaves and servitors work in endless rows, repairing plasma conduits and feeding the machine spirits that drive the engines. The navigators of the Navis Nobility guide them through the warp. Pale, veiled creatures whose third eyes gleam like dying suns. Every warp jump is a prayer for survival. Every landing, a miracle. But even miracles have prices. For every legal deal a rogue trader makes, there are 10 more in shadow. The Warsong dynasty sold the DNA of fallen space marines to a gene cult on an agri-world. The House Corrin traded weapons to the Tau Empire under the guise of diplomatic exchange. The dynasty of Thane once carried an entire chaos artifact, hidden within a statue of the Emperor himself, into the heart of a shrine world. When it was discovered, the entire planet was purged, yet Thane himself received another warrant. The Imperium rewards utility, not virtue. The most dangerous rogue traders are not the ones who defy the Imperium, but those who understand it too well. They know that faith and bureaucracy are the same coin. One side buys obedience, the other buys silence. They exploit both with equal devotion. When they bring a shipment of heretical relics to Mars, they do so under Mechanicus' seal. When they sell forbidden knowledge to a planetary governor, they claim it was the Emperor's will. Lies sanctified by ritual become truth. Some rogue traders go further still. They carve their own empires in the void. Entire systems ruled not by the High Lords of Terra, but by their own bloodlines. These worlds pay their tithes directly to the dynasty. They worship the trader's family crest instead of the Aquila. The ecclesiarchy calls it idolatry. The administratum calls it efficiency. The Inquisition calls it a necessary deviation. And so the heresy thrives, wrapped in gold and scripture. The relationship between rogue traders and smugglers is symbiotic, if not indistinguishable. The traders supply the smugglers with relics, weapons, and forbidden technologies from the edges of known space. In return, the smugglers move the goods the traders cannot afford to be seen carrying. They share the same silence, the same blood-stained hands. Sometimes they are the same person. A captain with a warrant by day and a ghost merchant by night. The line between sanctioned and condemned is thinner than parchment. But no matter how high they rise, rogue traders are still mortal, and mortality breeds fear. They fear the warp, the Inquisition, and above all, irrelevance. Their dynasties crumble in fire as often as they ascend to glory. The Emperor grants them license to rule beyond his light, but not to escape his judgment. When the Inquisition finally comes, it comes without warning. A black ship will emerge from the void, bearing the seal of Terra. The trader's crew will fall silent. Vox signals will die. And when the lights return, the ship, and everyone aboard will be gone. Yet even that fate is not always the end. There are whispers of rogue traitors who survive the Inquisition's wrath, stripped of their warrants, branded heretics, and cast into the void. These are the true outlaws, the ghosts who continue to trade among pirates and cultists, selling Imperial secrets to the highest bidder. They are hunted, hated, and yet somehow indispensable. The Imperium cannot kill what it secretly needs. For the rogue traitor is a reflection of the Imperium itself, proud, decayed, and drowning in contradiction. They wear piety like armor, but their hearts are black with ambition. They call themselves servants of the Emperor, but every voyage takes them further from his light. They claim to bring order to the stars, yet they spread chaos wherever they go. And through it all, they thrive. For in the galaxy of the 41st millennium, power does not belong to the righteous. It belongs to those who dare to take it, and those who know how to sell it. The rogue trader's creed is simple. Everything has a price, even the Emperor's silence. There are worlds in the Imperium that are never mentioned in the sermons of the ecclesiarchy. They do not appear in the records of the administratum. They are not marked on star charts, and no astropath dares to whisper their names. Yet they exist, shrouded in the smoke of trade, in the blood of the forgotten, in the black markets that move beneath the Emperor's light. These are the empires of the dead, the hidden kingdoms built by smugglers, rogue traders, and assassins who learned the one truth of the Imperium, that what dies in the dark does not always stay dead. When the Imperium conquers a world, it takes its tithes, its resources, its faith, its bodies, and leaves behind ash. But not every world submits. Some die quietly, their populations wiped clean by plague, heresy, or the unending wars of the Astra Militarum. Others are declared lost to the warp, their names struck from the archives. Yet deep beneath the dust of those ruins, survivors remain. Smugglers find them, rogue traders resurrect them, and slowly, in secret, life begins again. Not under the Aquila, but under the mark of shadow. A rogue trader might return to a world centuries after its supposed death, drawn by rumor or greed. What they find are remnants, half-human tribes living among the bones of cathedrals. Old manufactorums still humming with forgotten power. Cities swallowed by sand but not by time. The trader lands, offering food, medicine, and the illusion of hope. The survivors kneel, believing salvation has come. They do not understand they've just been conquered again. This time, not by the Imperium, but by its reflection. Such worlds are called shadow dominions. They exist in the spaces between law and memory. Their people worship the Emperor by the wrong names, their prayers twisted by generations of isolation. They send tithes of gold, minerals, or flesh not to Terra, but to a dynasty that claims divine mandate. To them, the traitor is the Emperor. To the traitor, they are assets. One such empire rose in the Segmentum Obscurus, on a world once known as Hraxus. It had been bombarded by the Imperial Navy 2 centuries prior. Its surface turned to glass during an exterminatus that purged a chaos incursion. The world was declared barren, another dead rock among billions. But decades later, the Vigilant Star, a smuggler vessel operating under false Imperial registration, picked up faint Vox signals from the surface. Against all logic they landed. What they found was a city beneath the glass. Hraxus had survived, buried under its own ruins. Entire generations had lived in the hollowed manufactoria, their skin pale from centuries without sunlight, their language warped into half-Latin liturgies. They believed they had been spared by the Emperor's direct will, and that the firestorm above had been a test of devotion. When Captain Ryan Cade of the Vigilant Star arrived, they hailed him as the Emperor's chosen messenger. He did not correct them. Within a decade, Cade had turned Hraxus into his personal kingdom. He rebuilt the forges, reopened the old trade networks, and began smuggling promethium, archaeotech, and even human labor to nearby systems. When the Administratum eventually noticed the renewed shipments, they classified Hraxus as a miracle world, restored by faith. Cade became a saint in name, a warlord in truth. His descendants still rule it now, their banners bearing both the Imperial Aquila and the sigil of their dynasty. Two-headed faith, twin heresy. Such empires are countless, some built in the underhives of forgotten cities, others carved into the sides of asteroids or hidden within the remains of derelict ships. They are ruled by those who understand that the Imperium's greatest weakness is not rebellion, but neglect. In the hive world of Cormus Prime, a smuggler syndicate known as the Ninefold Court rules an entire continent. They maintain the illusion of imperial order, Arbit's patrols, fake tithe reports, even priests who recite sermons by rote. But every decree, every shipment, every death is controlled by the court. Its members are faceless, their identities passed from one generation to the next, their signatures engraved in blood. To the outside eye, Corvus Prime is loyal. In truth, it hasn't been Imperial for over 300 years. The ecclesiarchy once sent a mission to cleanse it. The priests never returned. The Imperium calls these places anomalies. The smugglers call them success stories. They are self-sustaining, profitable, and most importantly, invisible. As long as the tithes flow, the High Lords never ask questions. As long as the faith chants sound familiar, the sermons are never examined too closely. The Imperium cannot police what it cannot see, and it cannot see what refuses to speak. For the smugglers who build them, these empires are legacy. For their inhabitants, they are prison. Generations grow up never knowing the truth, believing the Emperor's light shines directly upon them, never realizing it is reflected through layers of deceit. They live and die for the false saints who own their air, their food, their faith. And yet, in the cruel calculus of the 41st millennium, these worlds are often safer than those under Imperial rule. The tithe quotas are lower, the executions are fewer, the people are fed. Heresy, after all, is a luxury of survival. The Imperium would call it corruption. The smugglers call it mercy. But even the dead cannot rest forever. When the Inquisition eventually learns of these ghost empires, it comes like plague. Orbital bombardments, data purges, worlds reduced to silence once more. And yet, even after the ashes settle, the black markets return. Like fungus after fire, the trade always grows back. Because no matter how many times the Imperium burns its shadows, it still needs them to live. There are whispers that some Inquisitors themselves maintain such worlds. Sanctified fronts for their own black operations. Planets stripped from the registry, ruled through intermediaries. Their resources funneled into secret wars against chaos. If true, then even the Emperor's hunters build their empires atop the bones of the dead. The Mechanicus does the same. Entire forge moons operate without official sanction, run by rogue magi who claim autonomy in the name of research purity. These hidden forges produce weapons the Imperium dares not name. Neural flares, psionic disruptors, gene-spliced soldiers. The smugglers deliver the materials. The magi deliver payment. It is a relationship older than loyalty, older than faith. In the dark between stars, these dead empires speak to one another through coded astropathic murmurs, using frequencies forbidden by the novice nobilite. Their words are not prayers but bargains. They trade knowledge of warp routes, the movement of the Inquisition, the value of stolen relics. The network is infinite, a shadow Imperium within the Imperium. And every emperor, every trader, every smuggler who rules such a domain knows one thing. The day their name is spoken aloud in the halls of Terra is the day their empire dies. So they stay silent. They erase themselves from record. They become ghosts who command legions, empires of the dead. Death in the Imperium is never random. It is ritual, calculated, sacred. And for those who serve within the Officio Assassinorum, death is not an act. It is worship. The Imperium may span 1,000,000 worlds, but its grip on obedience is maintained by silence, not by speech. There are names that cannot be spoken, secrets that cannot be written, and enemies that cannot be judged in public. For those, there are the assassins. The Officio Assassinorum does not exist on any map. It is not a single fortress or temple, but a network of shrines and sanctums hidden beneath Terra's skin. Each temple serves one purpose, one specialization in the holy art of murder. The Vindicare, who strike from shadows 1,000 meters away. The Kalidas, who change form like ghosts. The Eversor, who kill until their hearts burst. And the Colexis, whose very presence drains the soul. Their existence is the Emperor's final whisper. The unspoken truth that his will is enforced not only by faith but by fear. No one chooses to become an assassin. They are chosen, taken from the Schola Progenium, from orphanages, prisons, and battlefields. The candidates are broken, reshaped, and reborn in the Emperor's image of utility. Their names are erased, their memories burned out by hypno-doctrination. They become tools, weapons, extensions of divine command. They do not serve for reward or recognition, for the Imperium has none to offer. Their lives are expendable, their deaths inevitable, their purpose eternal. It is said that to gaze into the eyes of a Vindicare operative is to see the Emperor's own reflection. Cold, distant, and unblinking. They are the most precise killers in existence, trained to hold still for weeks, to breathe once every hour, to fire only when the air itself seems frozen in reverence. A single round, blessed by the Mechanicus and inscribed with catechisms of absolution, can end an entire rebellion. The death of one man can save 1,000,000, and the Imperium will call it justice. But the Assassin's Creed is not bound by morality. Their targets are not always heretics or traitors. Sometimes they are imperial governors who grew too ambitious, generals whose victories inspired too much hope, or cardinals who threatened the balance of power. The emperor demands loyalty as not success. When faith becomes dangerous, the assassins are sent to remind the galaxy that no one is beyond reach. A story persists among the inquisitors of Orpheus Reach, of an entire system where every noble house was wiped out within a single night. The culprit was never found, but the rumor says a lone Calidus walked through the palaces disguised as a servant, a guest, a lover. One by one, she whispered their sins back to them in their own voices before cutting their throats. By dawn, there were no heirs left to claim the throne. The system fell into chaos. And within that chaos, the ecclesiarchy installed its own puppet ruler. The Calidus was never mentioned in any report. Her mission was complete. Assassins do not seek praise. They do not expect thanks. Theirs is a faith that exists only in action. Devotion measured by precision, by the clean silence after a kill. They are forbidden from speaking their victims' names aloud, for to do so would humanize them. To an assassin, a target is not a person, but a correction, a tear in the emperor's design that must be mended by blood. Yet beneath their engineered obedience lies something deeper. Something even the Imperium cannot erase. A flicker of doubt, a whisper of identity. Some operatives, after decades of missions, begin to remember fragments of their past lives. A smell, a voice, a face. For most, these are purged with electrotherapy or chemical reconditioning. But a few escape. There are unconfirmed accounts of former assassins living among the smugglers and rogue traders, hiding their training behind false identities. They never speak of their past, but their movements betray them. Too precise, too calm, too aware. These exiles become the most dangerous mercenaries in the galaxy. The smugglers call them eclipses, killers whose allegiance has burned away, leaving only purpose. Some sell their skills to the highest bidder. Others simply wander, seeking death they cannot deliver upon themselves. In truth, even the officio assassinorum relies on the underworld it claims to despise. Smugglers transport their operatives in secret through unregistered routes. Rogue traders provide false manifests and safe havens. Assassins repay these debts in silence, a competitor's ship exploding mysteriously, a rival governor dying in his sleep. These alliances are never written, never acknowledged. They exist in the shadow between heresy and necessity, like everything else in the Imperium. One such alliance shaped the fate of an entire sector. The rogue trader dynasty of Varus Holt discovered a chaos cult festering within the fleet of the Segmentum Obscurus Navy. Exposing it publicly would have caused panic. So Holt sent a message to the officio. 3 months later, every admiral involved died on the same night, each by a different method. One from poison, one from fire, one by his own hand. The cult's corruption was purged, and Holt's ships were rewarded with new trade rights. None ever spoke of it again. Assassins do not simply kill bodies, they erase legacies. Their creed demands that their existence itself be transient, their deeds absorbed into the faceless machinery of the Imperium. Even their temples compete in silence, each claiming superiority in secret wars fought across centuries. The Vindicare mock the Eversor for their brutality. The Calidus call the Vindicare cowards. The Culexus despise them all, for they know what it means to be truly empty. And then there are the rarest among them, the Clade Venenum, whose mastery of poison has turned assassination into art. They kill through breath, touch, or thought. A single drop of their venom can erase memory, turn truth to madness. Many inquisitors refuse their use, calling them abominations. Others see them as instruments of divine purification. The line between horror and holiness blurs until both words mean the same. In the eyes of the Assassinorum, there is no difference between sinner and saint. Only the mission. When an assassin is deployed, the galaxy shifts. Empires tremble. Armies retreat. A single death can change the course of history. The High Lords know this, and they wield that power sparingly. For to unleash an assassin is to admit the Imperium's failure to control by faith alone. It is to confess that even in the Emperor's name, perfection requires the hand of a killer. Yet what they cannot confess is this. The assassins do not serve out of loyalty. They serve because they are afraid. Afraid of freedom. Afraid of the silence that would come if they ever stopped obeying. In the catacombs of Terra, deep beneath the shrines of gold, there is said to be a vault. A place where failed assassins are entombed alive. Their bodies suspended in stasis, so their knowledge cannot die. Their faces are covered with iron masks. Their names are sealed beneath wax. The Mechanicus maintains the vault as both warning and resource. Should a future need arise, those ancient killers will be awakened again. The Imperium's faith may waver, its armies may crumble, but its assassins will never sleep forever. They are the Emperor's shadow, and the shadow endures. In the Imperium, alliances are forged not from trust, but from the necessity of survival. Every man, every fleet, every dynasty is a candle burning in an endless night. And in that darkness, the smugglers, the assassins, and the rogue traders find each other. They do not meet in daylight or under banners. They meet in silence, behind sealed Vox doors, their faces half-lit by the glow of data slates. For in the 41st millennium, loyalty is not measured in blood or faith. It is measured in what one is willing to betray. The rogue's bargain is the unspoken rule that binds the shadows together. It is not written nor sworn. It exists only in the glance between two killers who know they could destroy each other, yet choose not to. It is the agreement that power, even stolen, even damned, is useless if held alone. A rogue trader brings opportunity. A smuggler brings access. An assassin brings silence. Together, they can move entire worlds. The first record of such a bargain is older than the age of apostasy. It tells of a rogue trader, Captain Lethan Vor, who discovered a network of warp routes beneath the Segmentum Pacificus, passages used by ancient smugglers to avoid Imperial patrols. He struck a deal with the shadow fleets that haunted those routes. Protection in exchange for secrecy. When Vor's rivals in the trade houses tried to expose him, their ships exploded within days. Their crews found dead with no signs of struggle. The Inquisition later traced the deaths to operatives of the Officio Assassinorum, hired through intermediaries, paid in relics instead of thrones. Vor's empire grew vast. The smugglers grew rich. The assassins' names were erased. That was the first rogue's bargain, and it would not be the last. In the centuries that followed, every corner of the Imperium developed its own version. On hive worlds, it took the form of silence bought with blood. On forge worlds, it became trade in forbidden technology. On the void stations between stars, it was information. A secret whispered once, traded forever. The participants always changed, but the terms did not. Survival over loyalty, profit over faith, control over chaos. To the Imperium, such deals are treason. To those who live beneath its gaze, they are the only reason life still exists. Rogue traders, for all their splendor and privilege, are not immune to desperation. Their warrants of trade grant them freedom, but not safety. One wrong voyage, one bad tithe, one insult to the wrong cardinal, and their dynasties crumble. When that happens, the smugglers are the first to appear. They arrive unannounced, their ships unmarked, their offers whispered through the static of the void. They promise safe passage through restricted sectors, unregistered ports, cargo offloaded without question. In return, they demand access to the traders' networks. A single signature, a false record, a shipment misplaced in the right direction. The rogue traders pretend to despise them. The smugglers pretend to serve. Both know they need each other more than they need the Emperor's approval. Assassins enter these bargains differently. They are the currency of trust, the enforcers of silence. When a deal must be protected, when betrayal must be punished, when a rival must disappear without trace, it is the assassin who ensures the terms are honored. They are the blade hidden within the handshake. Many of the Imperium's most powerful trade dynasties owe their stability not to wealth or faith, but to the unseen hands of killers who make sure no one breaks their word. The Cade Compact is perhaps the most infamous of these alliances. Formed in secret between the smuggler king Marius Cade and rogue trader lady Varella Thane, it united over 30 shadow fleets across 3 sectors. Cade controlled the trade routes, Thane provided legitimacy through her warrant, and a cadre of Vindicare assassins enforced their peace. For nearly a century, their empire operated in perfect silence. The administratum recorded every transaction as lawful. The ecclesiarchy blessed every tithe. No one dared to speak against them. When an inquisitor finally uncovered fragments of their dealings, he died the following week, his body found seated in prayer, a single bullet through the rosary in his hand. The Cade Compact collapsed only when Thane broke the first rule. She believed herself untouchable. In an act of arrogance, she attempted to cut her assassin enforcers from the pact, refusing their demands for tithe shares. Her flagship, the Crimson Reliquary, was found adrift 6 months later, every crew member dead. Their hearts had stopped simultaneously, with no visible cause. The smugglers never took credit, and the officio never confirmed involvement. But every rogue trader since has remembered the lesson. No one escapes the bargain. There are places where these alliances are physical. Entire worlds where smugglers, traders, and killers coexist under unspoken law. The most famous is Port Seraphis, a drifting void city built from the hulls of 1,000 dead ships. It has no banners, no law, no allegiance, and yet it functions better than most Imperial worlds. Here, trade flows like blood through the veins of heresy. Human, Xenos, and machine mingle in the open. Assassins walk unmasked, their presence a reminder that silence is still the highest currency. Rogue traders dock their golden vessels beside pirate craft, exchanging relics over tables stained with oil and wine. Every deal made on Port Seraphis is sealed the same way, not with contracts, but with secrets. Two parties share something incriminating. A hidden sin, a buried truth, a name that could destroy them both. The exchange binds them. Betrayal would mean self-destruction. The system works. It has for millennia. Even the Inquisition knows of Port Seraphis. Some say they use it themselves. For in the Imperium, corruption is not the opposite of order. It is its foundation. The rogue's bargain is the galaxy's unacknowledged truth, that every saint needs a sinner to protect them. The smugglers keep the flow of goods alive when bureaucracy fails. The assassins maintain the illusion of purity by removing its contradictions. The rogue traders give all of it a face the Imperium can pretend to trust. Together, they are the invisible gears that turn the endless machine. But bargains come at a cost. The longer one lives by them, the more they consume. The smugglers lose their humanity first, trading faces, names, and loyalties until nothing remains but instinct. The assassins lose the will to question. The rogue traders, their souls, and yet none stop. Because in a galaxy that worships death, the only sin greater than betrayal is refusal. The bargain endures, always renewed, never broken, passed from one hand to the next, like blood on a blade. The names change, the terms shift, but the creed remains eternal. There is no faith, no loyalty, no law, only the deal. Freedom in the Imperium is a myth whispered between the screams of the tortured and the prayers of the faithful. Every man, woman, and child is born into chains of duty, of fear, of ignorance. The Imperial creed teaches that obedience is purity and that freedom is heresy. But there are always those who would pay any price to breathe unchained, to speak a forbidden word, to act without the Emperor's permission. These are the outcasts, the renegades, the forgotten souls who believe that freedom can exist in a galaxy ruled by gods and monsters. They are wrong. The Imperium allows rebellion only so that it might crush it. Every system that rises against Terra becomes a sermon to the others. Yet among the ashes of these failed uprisings, something darker always survives. Men and women who refuse to return to the fold, who choose to live without the light of the Astronomicon, navigating by instinct, rumor, and madness. The smugglers call them drifters. The Inquisition calls them the lost. To the rogue traders, they are both opportunity and warning. There is no freedom in the void, only different forms of servitude. When a man escapes Imperial control, he finds himself enslaved to something else: hunger, greed, the warp itself. The rogue traders know this truth intimately. Their warrants of trade grant them the illusion of autonomy. Yet every decision they make must serve the Imperium's design. They are free only so long as their profits align with loyalty. The moment they cross that line, they become prey. The smugglers are freer still, but theirs is the freedom of drowning men who have learned to breathe water. They answer to no law, yet their lives are dictated by roots, by debts, by fear of discovery. They move through forgotten warp tunnels where navigation is guesswork and sanity is currency. They deal in the forbidden, relics, technology, human lives. But they too pay their tithe, not to the Imperium, but to the underworld that shelters them. And then there are the assassins. Their freedom was stripped long before they could understand the word. They serve until death, and even then, their bodies may be preserved in cryogenic vaults, waiting for the next command. To them, freedom is not even a memory. It is a rumor carried in the dying breath of a target who dies smiling. Yet even among these bound souls, there are those who break the pattern. One such man was Corin Vale, a smuggler captain once known across the Segmentum Tempestus as the Void King. His fleet was vast, his influence greater than that of many Imperial governors. For years, he evaded the Inquisition and the Navy alike, bribing rogue traders, assassinating arbits, and selling archaeotech to the Mechanicus under false oaths of purity. But what made Vale different was not his cunning. It was his heresy. Vale did not seek wealth. He sought freedom. He believed that the Imperium's oppression stemmed not from malice, but from dependence. That humanity had become addicted to the illusion of divine control. He dreamed of building a realm beyond it, a society where mankind could exist without the Emperor's shadow. And so, in secret, he began constructing one. On the edge of the halo stars, far beyond the light of Terra, Vale found a dead world, a blackened husk rich in promethium and mineral ore. He named it Eidolon. There, he gathered exiles, deserters, heretics, and dreamers. Anyone who would pledge loyalty not to the Emperor, but to the idea of freedom itself. For a time, it worked. Ships came and went. Trade flowed. No sermons were spoken, no tithes paid. The people of Eidolon built a city of black steel and crimson flame, its towers rising against a sky that had never known the Astronomican's light. They lived and died by their own rules. They thought themselves free. But freedom, in the Imperium, has a scent, and the Inquisition can smell it across the stars. It began with whispers. A trade convoy vanishing near the halo's edge, a Mechanicus ship refusing to transmit. Then came the rumors, a world where no one bowed to the Emperor, where men lived without faith. To the ecclesiarchy, such rumors are blasphemy. To the Inquisition, they are prophecy of rot. A task force was dispatched under Lord Inquisitor Halbrecht Voss. His orders were simple. Find Eidolon, cleanse it, and record its destruction as an act of purification. But Eidolon was not defenseless. Vale had anticipated retribution. He had allies among the rogue traders, men and women who owed him more than loyalty. They smuggled him weapons, coordinates, and most importantly, information. For months, Voss's fleet searched the halo, guided by false astropathic echoes and misdirected data slates. By the time they found the true location of Eidolon, Vale's defenses were ready. The battle was not a war. It was an execution. The Inquisition's ships broke through the first line of defense in a storm of plasma and fire. Orbital bombardments turned entire districts into molten rivers. The sky itself burned. Vale's forces fought with desperation, manning ancient cannons, launching ramming frigates into the enemy's cruisers. But against the Imperium's wrath, courage is dust. Within hours, the city was ash. Cornvale was captured alive. The Inquisition offered him a choice: to repent and serve as an example of redemption, or to die as a heretic. He chose neither. Before his execution, he asked to speak to the Inquisitor alone. Witnesses claim his final words were a whisper. "You can kill me, but not the idea." The Inquisitor burned his body. Eidolon was declared cleansed, but in the decades that followed, sightings of Vale's symbol, a broken Aquila painted in ash, began appearing on derelict ships, in smuggler dens, and on the hulls of rogue trader vessels that refused inspection. Freedom had survived. Perhaps not as Vale imagined, not as hope, but as defiance. In the Imperium, rebellion cannot create paradise. It can only create memory. A story told in secret, a mark carved in steel, a whisper passed from one exile to another. That is the true price of freedom. It is never owned, only inherited, and those who inherit it must pay with everything they are: their names, their homes, their faith. Freedom in the 41st millennium is not a gift. It is a disease. It infects the desperate, the broken, the mad. It spreads through blood and silence, mutating with every generation. Somewhere in the void, there are still ships flying under the banner of the broken Aquila. They carry no saints, no sermons, only the memory of a man who refused to kneel. Their captains know their fate: to be hunted, purged, and forgotten. But still they fly. For even in the Imperium of man, where faith is law and obedience is survival, there remains one truth the Emperor himself cannot erase. Freedom is the last sin that will ever die. To speak of the Emperor in the Imperium is to speak of the sun, radiant, eternal, and untouchable. His light reaches across the galaxy, guiding ships through the warp, sanctifying every act of faith and burning heresy to ash. But where there is light, there must also be shadow. And the Emperor's shadow is not absence, it is will. Unseen, unspoken, and everywhere. The priests of the ecclesiarchy will tell you that the Emperor is the source of all good, that his light purifies and protects. Yet in the quiet halls of the Inquisition, the truth is whispered differently. They know that light is not mercy. It is control. It bends, it commands, it consumes. And wherever it cannot reach, the shadow acts in its name. The shadow does not preach. It enforces. It does not believe. It obeys. Every death ordered in secret. Every rebellion extinguished before it began. Every heretic erased before their words spread. All of it is the Emperor's will expressed through shadow. The Inquisition, the Assassinorum, the silent agents of the Adeptus Astra Telepathica, and the countless unnamed operatives who kill without banners or prayer. These are his darkness. They are the parts of the Imperium that exist because the Emperor cannot be everywhere, yet must be obeyed everywhere. It is said that the Emperor's shadow has no form, but in truth, it wears many faces. Some say it is the black ships that wander the void, collecting psychers like harvesters reaping a cursed field. The prisoners within scream prayers to a god they will never see, their bodies destined for the golden throne or the pyre. Others claim the shadow walks in the form of the Inquisitors, men and women whose authority supersedes all law, who burn planets in the Emperor's name and call it mercy. Still others believe the shadow is something far older, something that predates even the Imperium, a remnant of the Emperor's own mind, severed from his body, still moving unseen through the warp. Whatever the truth, the shadow is not evil. It is necessary, for without shadow, the light would blind. On the world of Electra 9, the people once believed they were forgotten by the Imperium. The planet's Vox relays had failed decades earlier. Its tithes had gone uncollected, and its rulers declared independence. They worshipped the Emperor still, but in their own way, not as a god, but as the first among men. They built temples not of gold but of steel, and their priests taught that the Emperor's will was not submission, but endurance. For 50 years they thrived. Then the shadow came. It arrived in silence, a ship without markings, emerging from the void like a wound. No transmission, no identification. Its landing craft descended into the capital during the night, disgorging 100 black-armored figures. By morning, every member of the ruling council was dead. The temples were burned. The archives were wiped. The planet's name was stricken from the administratum's ledgers. Electra 9 ceased to exist. The few who survived called them the Emperor's ghosts. They moved without sound, killed without hesitation, and left nothing behind but the scent of incense and burned data slates. When Imperial forces returned decades later, they found no rebellion, only obedience. The people had rebuilt their faith, this time according to the creed. The Emperor's shadow had done its work. There are those who serve it knowingly, inquisitors, assassins, prelates of the secret orders. But there are also those who serve it unknowingly, drawn into its purpose by fate, blackmail, or divine coincidence. Rogue traders carrying forbidden relics under false manifests, smugglers transporting medical supplies that are in truth the raw material for servitor production. Even heretics who think they are defying the Imperium, yet whose rebellion creates the pretext for its next crusade. All of them are tools of the same unseen hand. The shadow does not distinguish between willing and unwilling servants. It uses both. There are whispers among the navigators that the Emperor's shadow even extends into the warp. They tell of shapes that move through the Astronomican's light, forms that resemble ships, yet bear no mass, no crew, no heat signature. They drift between real and unreal space, appearing only when Imperial vessels are lost, guiding them home before vanishing again. Some say these phantoms are the Emperor's thoughts given form, fragments of his psychic will that move independently, seeking to preserve humanity by any means. Others claim they are something else entirely. The ghosts of those sacrificed to keep the throne alive, still serving in death. But the most forbidden story of all is this: that the Emperor's shadow is alive. Hidden deep within the catacombs of Terra, beneath the Golden Throne itself, is said to be a vault known only to the High Lords. Within it lies the Speculum Imperatoris, the mirror of the Emperor. It is not made of glass or metal, but of living circuitry and psychically attuned crystal, designed by the Mechanicus in the early days of the Imperium. When one gazes into it, they see not their reflection, but the Emperor's shadow, a silhouette that moves even when the viewer does not. Those who have looked into the speculum are never the same. Some go mad, some vanish, a few emerge changed, colder, wiser, more ruthless. These become the inquisitors of the Ordo Sicarius, the hidden hand that commands the assassins. They say that when the Emperor finally dies, it will not be his light that endures, but his shadow. For light fades, shadow does not. It adapts, it spreads, it becomes everything it must to preserve the whole. That is the paradox of faith in the Imperium. The Emperor's followers pray for salvation, but salvation is impossible without suffering. They worship his radiance, but radiance cannot exist without darkness. In every act of devotion, there is a whisper of hypocrisy. In every act of heresy, a sliver of truth. The shadow knows this. It accepts it. That is why it survives, when all else fails. And so, in every forgotten world, every silent corridor of a hive city, every void ship that drifts through the night, the Emperor's shadow waits. It does not rest. It does not question. It listens. It hears the prayers of the desperate, the lies of the faithful, the screams of the dying. And in the end, it answers. Not with light, but with silence. The Imperium is eternal war, against Xenos, heretics, and demons without number. But there is another war, older and quieter, one that has no front lines and no victory. It is the hidden war. The endless struggle fought within the heart of mankind itself. It is a war of silence and secrecy, waged not by armies but by ideas. And unlike the grand crusades that burn across the stars, this war can never be seen, only felt, like a knife pressed against the soul. It begins where faith falters. Every world, from the shining spires of Terra to the rusted manufactorums of Necromunda, hides its own heresies. They grow in the cracks of belief, whispered by men who have lost too much to still pray. A priest who doubts a miracle, a soldier who questions a crusade, a scholar who studies forbidden text. One doubt becomes a dozen becomes a movement, and before the Imperium even notices, another world begins to rot. That is when the hidden war begins. The Inquisition calls it purification. The ecclesiarchy calls it redemption. The assassins call it routine. But those who fight it in secret know the truth. That this war is not about destroying the enemy. It is about preserving the illusion that there are no enemies left. Every act of suppression, every vanishing record, every martyr burned in silence, all are pieces of the same machine. A machine that hides its own decay by consuming it. Among the shadows, the combatants of this unseen conflict are many. The inquisitors who purge truth for stability. The rogue traders who smuggle heretics to safety in exchange for profit. The smugglers who carry whispers through the void, turning rumor into currency. And the assassins who silence them all, ensuring the balance remains unbroken. It is a war without sides, only purposes. The origins of the hidden war trace back to the Horus heresy, when brother fought brother and the emperor was entombed upon the golden throne. The heresy was not merely a civil war, it was the birth of secrecy as survival. For the first time, truth itself became a weapon too dangerous to wield. The Imperium learned that knowledge destroys faith faster than bullets, and so it was buried. From that moment on, the greatest threat to the Imperium was not the Xenos or the demon, but the truth. The hidden war is the continuation of that burial, an unending attempt to erase history faster than it can repeat. On the hive world of Carpathia Prime, the war manifested as a plague of memory. It began with a rumor that the food rations distributed by the Administratum contained the ashes of the dead. Within weeks, entire sectors refused to eat. Riots spread. The Arbits responded with executions. But no matter how many were silenced, the rumor lived. An inquisitor named Salen Morda was dispatched to restore order. She found that the rumor was true. The food processors were indeed recycling human remains, a desperate measure taken to feed the population. The Administratum had hidden the truth for years. Morda faced a choice: expose the crime and risk total rebellion, or conceal it and preserve the peace. She chose the latter. The rebellion was crushed, the truth erased. But in the years that followed, the children of Carpathia Prime were born with strange eyes, pale, luminous, and unblinking. They did not cry, they simply stared. Some said it was radiation, others said it was the curse of truth left unspoken. That is how the hidden war always ends. Not with victory, but mutation. Every lie planted to preserve faith eventually grows roots. Every silence becomes a wound. There are entire branches of the Inquisition devoted solely to this war. The Ordo Scriptorum monitors the flow of forbidden knowledge. The Ordo Memorius oversees the destruction of heretical archives. The Ordo Umbra, whose existence is officially denied, hunts down those who learn too much, including other inquisitors. They erase memories, rewrite histories, and sculpt the narrative of the Imperium itself. But for every act of concealment, there is resistance. There are scribes who copy forbidden texts in cipher and hide them inside prayer books. There are rogue traders who ferry survivors of purges to dead worlds and teach them to worship the Emperor in silence. There are even assassins who defy their orders, not out of mercy, but because they no longer know who the true enemy is. The hidden war is a war of attrition, and the combatants do not even know they are fighting it. Every citizen who prays for guidance is both soldier and victim. Every bureaucrat who falsifies a report participates. The Imperium does not win this war, it perpetuates it. And yet, beneath the horror of it, there is a strange beauty. For all its corruption and cruelty, the Imperium endures because of this quiet war. The lies that kill also preserve. The silences that suffocate also protect. The hidden sacrifices of countless souls keep humanity from devouring itself in madness. In the end, the hidden war is not about truth versus deception, but about balance. It is the Imperium's heartbeat. Constant, fragile, necessary. Still, there are those who seek to end it. Legends speak of a cabal known as the Lumen Tenebris, the Light of Darkness. They are said to be former inquisitors, scholars, and renegade Astartes, who believe that only through revelation can humanity evolve. Their goal is simple: to reveal everything the Imperium has hidden, every heresy, every crime, every truth buried beneath 10,000 years of silence. To them, the hidden war is not protection. It is slavery. No one knows if the Lumen Tenebris truly exists. Some claim their members communicate through encoded transmissions in the astropathic network. Others believe they operate from a mobile void fortress, hidden within a warp storm. The Ordo Umbra has declared them exterminatus-level threats, not because they are powerful, but because they are right. If even a fraction of the truths they threaten to reveal were known, the Imperium would collapse overnight. And so, the hidden war continues, endless, consuming, eternal. Each side believes it fights for humanity's survival. Each side damns it a little further. There are no victories here, only continuations. In the 41st millennium, the greatest battles are not fought with bolters or blades, but with silence. The mightiest heroes are not those who conquer worlds, but those who destroy knowledge. And the most dangerous heretics are not the ones who defy the Emperor, but the ones who understand him. The hidden war has no end, because to end it would mean to reveal that it exists. In the grim darkness of the far future, truth is not a light, it is a weapon. And like all weapons in the Imperium, it is forbidden to wield without permission. The High Lords call it knowledge. The ecclesiarchy calls it blasphemy. But the people, the billions who live and die in the shadow of faith, call it simply danger. For in a galaxy ruled by dogma, truth is the most dangerous heresy of all. The truth is this: the Imperium is dying. It has been dying for 10,000 years, bleeding out through bureaucracy, corruption, and ignorance. Every triumph is an illusion. Every victory another patch on a crumbling empire. The Astronomicon burns weaker each century. The Golden Throne, once the seat of divine light, is now a machine of endless consumption, devouring souls by the millions to keep a corpse alive. And yet, the Imperium tells itself that it endures by faith. Faith is not what sustains it. Control is. The ecclesiarchy knows it. The Inquisition enforces it. The Mechanicus worships it in circuitry and steel. Even the Space Marines, the Emperor's angels, know that their wars are no longer for humanity, but for the illusion that humanity still matters. The Imperium survives not because it is strong, but because it refuses to admit its weakness. That refusal is the heart of its strength and its curse. But the truth, like rot, spreads even through iron. It begins in whispers, in forbidden data fragments hidden in the cogitators of forgotten archives. It festers in the prayers of priests who no longer believe, in the tears of soldiers who cannot remember what world they fight for. It infects the dreams of psychers and the confessions of the dying. Across the galaxy, there are those who begin to see the Imperium for what it truly is. Not a beacon of light, but a mausoleum of obedience. These are the truth seekers, the cursed, the doomed. Some are scholars who unearth ancient histories erased from the librarium archives. Others are inquisitors who have seen too much, who begin to question the very foundations of their faith. A few are rogue traders who stumble upon relics that speak in forbidden tongues. And then there are the prisoners, the forgotten billions sacrificed to the Golden Throne, who dream of a god that does not listen, only consumes. For the final truth is this: the Emperor is not alive. He has not been alive for 10,000 years. What sits upon the Golden Throne is a mind trapped between existence and oblivion. A psychic storm of memory and will, vast enough to burn across the stars, yet blind to the world it once saved. His light is real, yes, but it is not him. It is the echo of his death, sustained by faith and flesh, feeding on the souls of humanity like a dying sun feeding on its own gravity. The ecclesiarchy denies this. The Inquisition kills to suppress it. The Mechanicus prays to it. But deep within the catacombs of Terra, where the air hums with the sound of endless machines, there are those who know. The custodians whisper it in secret oaths. The tech priests glimpse it in their data calculations. Even the psychers who are sacrificed feel it as they burn, that the Emperor's light is not mercy, but hunger. And yet, perhaps that is why humanity survives. Because even in death, the Emperor refuses to let go. His will is the Imperium. His corpse commands fleets, crushes rebellions, sanctifies exterminations. His silence is scripture. His absence is law. To live in the Imperium is to live in the body of a dead god that refuses to decay. That is the final truth, and it is unbearable. There are those who try to reveal it. Some go mad and proclaim it openly, their voices echoing through hive slums and underhive corridors until the Arbites silence them. Others record it in hidden data slates, burying their words in encrypted vaults deep beneath the surface of dead worlds. A few succeed in sending their message across the stars, only to watch it vanish into static, intercepted by the Ordo Memorius before it ever reaches another soul. But a few fragments always survive. They drift through the void, carried by warp currents, embedded in astropathic transmissions, or scratched into the hulls of derelict ships. And sometimes a lost wanderer, a traitor, a missionary, a deserter, will stumble upon one. They read it, they weep, they understand, then they destroy it, because to know the truth is to die by it. Still the Imperium endures. It always will, not because it is righteous, but because it is relentless. It devours heresy, rewrites history, and sanctifies ignorance. It cannot be destroyed, only outlasted. And so the cycle continues. Faith becomes oppression. Oppression breeds rebellion. Rebellion is crushed and forgotten. Humanity lives, but not freely. It survives, but not whole. It endures, but not awake. Somewhere, beneath the eternal hum of the Golden Throne, perhaps the Emperor knows this. Perhaps he dreams, not of conquest, but of release. Perhaps his final mercy would be to let humanity die, so it might finally live. But the Imperium will not allow it. It cannot. And so, across the stars, a billion worlds continue their prayers. They raise their eyes to the sky and whisper the words taught to them since birth. The Emperor protects. They do not realize the meaning has long changed. He protects not through salvation, but through suffering. Not by saving mankind, but by binding it forever to its own fear. In the end, that is the final truth. The Imperium of man is not the light of humanity. It is its shadow, vast, eternal, and merciless. And though that shadow will one day fade, swallowed by the endless dark, it will leave behind only the faintest of echoes, the whisper of a dying god, saying the same words he spoke when the galaxy still burned. Mankind was never meant to be saved.